Ashley Morrison, thank you so much. A study commissioned by the World Bank finds that the best way of protecting citizens from rising food costs is to avoid interfering with market forces. In other words, countries shouldn't use subsidies or price controls, but should focus instead on cutting food demand or increasing food supply. The study also looks at what developing nations can achieve sustained growth to lift its citizens out of poverty. Danny Leipziger is Vice Chairman of the World Bank's Commission on Growth and Development, and he's in studio with us today. Danny, thank you for joining us.
Pleased to be here.
So your study is this big, what, an inch and a half thick. It's a book, so we can't get to all the points. And I would like to start specifically on this point of your study warning against subsidies and price controls. Why?
Well, I think we realize that developing countries, in particular, are short of resources. This putting scarce resources into subsidies for everyone is not the best way to protect the citizenry. On the other hand, if you have cash transfer programs that are well targeted, that might be a way to shoulder some of the shocks that countries are experiencing right now.
In other words, building up reserves and inventories. Is that possible, though, in some of these poorer countries? It must be tough.
Well, we try to distinguish between food security and food self-sufficiency. Not everybody is going to be self-sufficient in food, but food security means that you need to have some risk mitigating devices, and government is probably well placed to do that. The report that you referred to, inch and a half thick that it is, really is trying to give advice to countries. What makes it unique is that it's the result of an independent commission. It's not the World Bank report. It's an independent commission headed by Mike Spence of policymakers who have actually been in the trenches, and it tries to tell the next generation of policymakers what they've learned, what has worked and what has not worked.
I want to dig into that and get as many points as we can, but first of all, when you talk about sustained growth, what is that exactly, and why is it so important? Because we certainly have seen boom and bust in a lot of countries.
Well, I think what we found is that for countries to really make sustained progress in terms of welfare improvements, by which we mean poverty reduction and better standards of living, you really need to sustain growth upon decade. And there are only 13 countries in the post-World War II era that have actually generated 7% growth, let's say, per annum for 25 years. And we're looking for lessons to take from those experiences, and we hope that this report will give some of those lessons.
What is the number one thing you singled out?
We think the role of government, frankly, and I think this is a bit controversial. Sometimes people say, you know, get government out of the way. But we haven't found too many countries that have really sustained high and inclusive growth without a government that is committed to that goal.
Okay. Hold that thought, because we're going to continue this conversation with Danny Leipziger of the World Bank in just a moment and find out a bit more about what sustaining growth means and what parts of the world are best positioned to do that now. Next on The Economy.